not alone. There lived a witch, and that witch...
No! Read me a story! One with pretty pictures! Come on!
One of my most anticipated games of 2014 was Nippon Ichi's The Witch and the 100 Knight. It looked really interesting. It was their first foray into a 3D action game in the HD era, or just in general, and it looked really fun. I liked the character designs, and it just seemed like it was going to be a really cool game. While I certainly got some enjoyment out of the game, it left me a little bit disappointed.
This will be a good chance to show me what you're really made of.
In The Witch and the 100 Knight, you play as the 100 Knight, this little guy that works as a minion for Metalia, the Swamp Witch. Basically, she's kind of mean, kind of evil, actually really mean and really evil, and she hires you, or basically captures you, to go do her bidding. Basically, she wants to spread her swamp all across the world. So you go around and you try to find these plants, and basically it'll allow her to teleport there and spread her swamp everywhere. In the past, being the villain is something of a norm in past Nippon Ichi games. For example, in the Disgaea games, you usually are the overlord over the Prinnies and you give them orders, and it's all in good fun. You're not actually super mean to them, it's just kind of like joking evil. But in this game, Metalia, pretty much the main character of the game, she's just mean evil. Like, you don't like the character as you're playing through the game. I mean, just listen to some of the things she says.
I bet the stupid whore is the one who protects it. Oh well, no problem. Either way, we're gonna gut the bitch.
We're here to claim your head. Now shut up and die, you f***ing whore! 100 Knight, rip her head off, and do your best to make sure she feels every painstaking moment of it.
I mean, wow, some of the stuff she said is so bad. And they're bleeping it out, and I get it. It's just probably for dramatic effect or whatever. But it's just awful. Like, you don't care for the character, you don't care for anything you're doing. And there are some other interesting characters throughout the game. You don't feel like you want to do work for Metalia because, oh, it's a fun little mission. No, she's mean, and I didn't like her throughout the game. And if you're one that has liked stories in Disgaea games or other Nippon Ichi games in the past and are hoping for something a little bit quirky, a little bit fun, you might find it here, but for the most part, I just was a little bit disturbed and I didn't like it because it was a little too mean for me and I didn't quite get as much enjoyment out of it as I thought I would. For the actual gameplay though, it makes up for it quite a bit. Basically, it's a roguelike game, which I wasn't really expecting out of the game. You walk around and there's enemies and you fight them, you pick up different weapons, and you have a time limit. Basically, anything you do using like special moves or walking around, it removes time, or there's a timer always ticking down. And once it expires, you have to go back to the Swamp Witch's house. You're allowed to level up, buy some new items, and basically you start all over again. The combat is very satisfying, I felt like. It felt good hitting guys, and there were cool combos you could build and a variety of weapons. The one thing that really bothered me, though, at least in the beginning areas, there were always trees and the environment getting in the way. It was really hard to see what you were doing. Fortunately, you can at least rotate the camera, but more often than not, I felt like things were getting in the way, and it was really hard for me to see what was happening. So as you're going through, you're going to come to different landmarks. They're basically your checkpoints, so you want to check them off, and you basically always know where you're going. There's a marker, and it'll tell you where to go, which usually leads to a boss fight or some kind of event that will further the story along. The boss fights are pretty fun. You know, they have typical patterns. You have to dodge here, you have to dodge there, you have to make sure you hit their weak spots or you're using the right attack. So it's not anything completely mind-blowing, but in the vein of that quirky Nippon Ichi world, it's fun and it's very different from anything they've done before. And that's the other thing. This is a very quintessential Nippon Ichi game. You can see it in the art when they're doing the 2D character portraits, when they're talking back and forth. Looks very much like a Disgaea game. The music, very much kind of that weird, I don't even know how you describe it, but that weird Disgaea music. All throughout the game, you'll see that and hear it as well. The art, it was definitely one of my favorite parts about the game. I love the character designs, especially Metalia. She looks really weird with this kind of these bright green eyes and this huge hat. And even the 100 Knight looks cool with the little glowy blue flame. I just thought overall all the characters were designed really well, and it was an overall pretty looking game. Outside of some in-game models, now at certain points in the game you're going to come to towns where you can either take over people's houses or try to bargain with them. basically for items. I never used it a lot, so I didn't really understand what the point of it was. But basically, the townspeople look really, really bad as far as character models. I'm not even joking when I say they look like early PS2 graphics, maybe even late PS1 graphics. Now I can understand this a little bit because, again, this is Nippon Ichi's first foray into a big 3D game. But man, it's really, really rough, and I'm sure as you're looking at this footage, you're going to be able to tell just how rough it is. So overall, to kind of wrap things up for The Witch and the 100 Knight, I felt like the combat was pretty satisfying. I like the art for the most part. There was a good variety of environments, and you can basically build the character you want because there's different classes and different weapons you can equip, and there's a lot of leeway as far as that goes. And if you're looking again for that grind fest, you can always do it again and again and again. The game you could be playing it forever basically. Where it fell short for me, unfortunately, was the cutscenes and the story. Again, Metalia is very unlikable. You really don't enjoy what you're doing or why you're doing it, for who you're doing it for. And also, I felt like the cutscenes went on way, way too long. Some of them like 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time. It's just like, come on already. And it's not that they go on long, but they say the same thing 5 different ways. It's like, okay, we get it, let's just wrap this up and let's get going to the next part. If you are a long-time Nippon Ichi fan, played Disgaea and Guided Fate Paradox and all that stuff, I think you'll enjoy this game. It's definitely got that quintessential humor, art style, sound, and definitely has some new gameplay feel. But if you're looking for something a little bit more fun and quirky in the story, you might not like it because Metalia is just so mean and unlikable.
Yep, dumb as a bag of hammers.
Well, that's it for my review of The Witch and the 100 Knight. Definitely let me know what you guys think if you got a chance to play the game. And be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. It really helps me out a lot. And as always, subscribe if you want to see more videos.